She has experience in leasing, operations training, and now she is the CEO and principal coach of the Activation Coaching International, powered by the Activation Hour. Melissa has a mission, guys, to give a voice to the unseen and the unheard at work through the world with coaching, speaking, and media. One of the fun facts about Melissa that I did not know until recently is that Melissa is a past recipient of the Alexander Jackie Diversity and Inclusion Scholarship. She is the founder, guys, of Righting Our Wrongs. Righting Our Wrongs is a nonprofit organization with a mission of activating voices of the youth in social justice and anti bullying. Melissa is a global speaker. And I know that for a fact. That did not just come from her bio. I was able to personally stand on the stage and witness her in the Bahamas in her element, be a global speaker and a faith based leader, and bringing so many, not children, but teenagers to Christ. And that's something hopefully she and I will be able to dive a little bit deeper in. And Melissa is also an author. She has a new book out there that she's going to talk about today, The Spirit Led Leader Devotional. So, without further ado, I come from the old school Baptist church where they say the best way to introduce a speaker is to let them speak. So, if you guys would stand up in your office and give us a round of applause for the Melissa D. White.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm backstage just glowing and gushing and excited. And I'm like, who is she talking about? Oh, Ty. I'm honored. I'm so honored. Hey.
I am so honored to have you on here first and foremost, Melissa. I mean, you know how I feel about you just from coaching with you.
Yeah.
We've been coaching not even a year yet.
No.
And where my business started from and where it has gone. But I promised myself this was not going to be a coaching session. I was going to let you talk because I've been told these folks all about you and all the
Oh
things about
man.
you. So before we get started with Melissa, the activation coach, I got some questions.
Okay, let's go for it.
Who
I'm here for it.
who is Melissa? Like not Melissa the coach, not Melissa the author, Melissa from Alabama. Like who is Melissa? Because we want to know.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That's a wonderful question. And I love what Carol just said, keeping it real. Can I keep it all the way real since we're talking with Ty?
Keep it a
Um,
hundred.
Melissa is evolving. Melissa is growing. And Melissa, as a woman, is figuring that out in the next phase of who I am. And the thing is, oftentimes we show up as leaders feeling like we have to be a certain thing in a certain way, and that our titles have defined us for so long that we don't know how to just be who we are. And so, Melissa is a woman above titles, beyond that, being the blended version of all that I am, no matter what space I'm in. And Ty, you know this, like, and it took me years, and we can get into that, to just accept that I'm a girl from the South that loves family, that loves faith, that loves all people. And I'm really just down to earth. You see me run through the grass barefoot, laugh, dance, talk. But for so many years, we feel like leaders have to be buttoned up and presented a certain way, and there's a time and space to be polished. But when you talk about helping people be themselves and find a voice, you have to be just yourself. I had to
That's it.
trade in my blazer for just being me. I had to
Just
trade
being me.
in the suit sometimes and let the hair down and be real so that you could be your best. And so I'm an activator. I just show up and I don't hold back. And that's who I am.
No, you don't. and
No,
get
I don't. I don't hold back. I don't hold back.
So, with over 20 years in the multifamily industry, and this is the question that I love to ask and find out from people because I don't think there's anybody on here that started out in junior high school when you fill out that form, when the counselors come in and they say, I'm going to be in the multifamily industry. I'm going to be a property manager. I'm going to coach people. I'm going to stand on public stages and I'm going to be a speaker.
Yeah.
How did you even start in the multifamily industry?
I'm glad you asked that because the truth of the matter is, I didn't know what a multifamily industry was or that it existed, Ty. Melissa was on her way to law school. I had already picked the school. I sent my admission. I was in my senior year of college at Valdosta State University. I had picked out Mercer University for my law school. I was literally studying for the LSATs and preparing for graduation. And I was at a crossroads. I was doing it because I said my whole life, well, I'm just going to be a lawyer. And I didn't really know what I wanted for real. I knew what I did not want. I did not want to be stuck in an office. I did not want to be restricted. Like, I wanted to be around people. I wanted to move. I wanted to be myself. And at the time, I was working for the university attorney and I was doing contract reviews. So, Ty, you know me. Can you imagine loud me sitting quiet in a cubicle reading contracts all day? And she
Yeah.
came to me and said, I have to ask, like, you're good at your job, but is this what you really want? Now, when you get a leader, a boss ask you that, say, is this what you want? Like, I
Mhm.
know what I see for you, and I can write all the letters of recommendation for you. And I was like, I don't know. And I like just broke down because I was like, it was such a prestigious job and what everyone wanted for me. And then I literally was stuck. I couldn't go home without a job and tell my mama, I just
Mhm.
graduated. I don't have plans. So I literally, at the time, was going to the library every day looking for a job. I'm like, what am I gonna do? And an ad popped up, Ty, real true story. An ad popped up that said travel and get paid. And it was for a lease up company in the industry. And that's how I got started.
Travel and get paid.
Yep. It was
That sound like that would have attracted me too. Travel and get paid. So
right.
I'm gonna ask this question, and I never bring in age, but I want to ask this question for a reason for the listeners. How
Sure.
old were you when that transition happened in your life from deciding that this is not it with law school and
Yeah.
going into multifamily?
Wow. Um, it was almost 20 years ago to the day. I was 21 years old. I was
See, and
21 years old.
I asked that hashtag RPM careers
Come on.
because I want people to know that the multifamily industry does not have to be my first thing in life.
Mm-hmm.
It can be your second. A lot of us did something else prior to coming into this industry,
Yep.
and we didn't know what we were getting into. We
Mm-hmm.
walked into somewhere, we saw an ad, we knew somebody that said we would be a great fit, and then we got in it, and Lord and behold, 20 years later,
Right.
are still here because exactly
Ooh.
what you said, and you are that person, Melissa, that loves people, that's
Mm-hmm.
loud, that's vibrant, that want to be around people. And
Yeah.
you know, I am the loud queen, honey. You woke
You
up.
got me beat. I love you, but you got me beat. I was like, whoo, I'm usually the big ball of energy in the room, and she done wore me out. So yeah, but I love you
Yes, but as long as it's what 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, because
though.
all my girls know me. You catch me in the evening time at 7 o'clock, you will not get the same time. She's
I
sleeping.
got you on the second shift. I'm the loud, boisterous one, like from 3 to like midnight. That's me.
So take us through that journey. Started out as a leasing professional. How did that go? Was it a conventional way or was your steps? I went through a maze to get to where I am today. So how did you transition?
Wow. So it was an unlearning experience. And let me explain what I mean by that. Okay. And especially for those who are connected to you and your community watching this, I had to unlearn what I thought I knew about people, what skills I thought I had with my college educated self. Let me be real. What I had spent 4 years learning in business school, because I tell the story oftentimes. If you've ever been in a leasing training with me, if at any time in my career we've worked together and I've sat or mentored you, you've heard this story. But the journey for me was, truthfully, I got fired before I got hired. That's the true story. I did. I in training, they were going to fire me. It was a 7 day training. And here's why. And here's the teachable moment. Um, because I remember getting a script. And when, if you ever worked for a lease up company, like, I mean, it's a very serious thing. So it was unconventional in a sense, because I didn't like just walk into a leasing office and start that way. I mean, I went through a rigorous training on how to go into a market, assess the market, prepare a marketing plan, and prepare for lease up, or for a property that's going through a rehab or new construction. Like, this was a whole new world to me. And I had to learn this in a 7 day training, if you will, right? And I remember they sent it to me in the mail. They sent me a 2 page script, Ty. It was like 30 something questions. And I was like, are they serious? Like, they said, hey, come with this learn to memorize to training, which your training was literally like your last round interview. If you could make it through those 7 days, then they would send you in the field, which is important. And I think it was unconventional, because it's like, damn, does it take all that just to show people an apartment? That's what I'm thinking at the time. 21-year-old me that was graduating and thought I was ready to take on the world and I knew everything. And I remember my trainer, and this was the moment I knew I wanted to be a trainer and to help people. I remember my trainer at the time took me in the bathroom and had the most loving and stern talk. As a leader, you know what I'm talking about, like how you lead with love and grace, but I got to correct you for a minute. And she saw me just kind of like I was doing good on everything, but I was terrible at touring. Like, I was terrible. It's crazy to say now, terrible at it. And it was because I was fumbling my way through it. I was just like, oh, I'll just go with the flow. I'll just figure it out. And she said to me, Melissa, we called you in, I mean, because you were exceptional at every level of your interview. This was like a 3 round interview. She said, but you didn't study that script, did you? I was like, well, no, I mean, I looked at it. And she said, for that reason, I'm going to send you home. And I was like, what? She said, home. And I was like, I was in shock, Ty. She said, because for you to be successful at what we do, you have to trust the process that we give you.
Ooh, come on.
That was a life lesson. That was a life lesson. That was a life lesson in Leasing 101. Trust the training and the process I give you so you get the desired results that we require of you. They sent me home. And I remember I was devastated. I was like, how in the world am I about to tell my mama that I got this tuition to pay off and I'm home, no law school, no big job. She was like, like, all you had to do was learn a script, Melissa. So I say that to say, leasing, whatever, if you're thinking about this industry, if you're in this industry, you have to throw away what you think you know and be willing to go through the process to help people and to use the tools that experts, those who have been in the trenches, those who have cultivated a process for you to be successful. It's for your benefit. And I had to unknow it. So when I say it's unconventional, it's very unconventional. Here's the blessing, though. Obviously, like, I'm still in the industry 20 years later. Like, okay, Melissa, what happened in that? A few months later, they had a person they had to pull out of the field. And I remember my trainer calling me back on the phone. And I was literally about to accept the job, like I really did not want. And she said, hey, I believe in you so much. I want to call you back in. And go back through the training and the interview again, and we want to give you a second chance. Now, that is grace as a
Yeah.
leader. They didn't have to do that. And it's because it was like it was when I tell you I studied that script with my mama, my daddy, my brother, the cat, the dog. I was like, I knew that thing inside out, backwards, forwards, whatever. And it's because we're required to show up in excellence in the small thing. And that was my first lesson in leasing. 101 out the gate.
But that was a great lesson in leasing, because one of the things that you said that stuck with me is about forgetting what you know, unlearning the things.
Mhm.
From every stage in multifamily, from every property you go to, every owner that you work for, every position that you hold, you have to unlearn what you already
Mhm.
know in order to be successful. We've all been in that situation where we're the property manager and you bring over a new leasing professional from another property, but we did it like this. And we
Yeah.
did it, well, sis, we
Mhm.
don't do it like that over
We
here.
don't do it like that anymore. And if it was working so well, then
You
we
were
would
still in
be
over there.
better at it. Right.
Yes. And another one of the key things from that story is, see, the way that you left when she did send you home. Relationships matter
Oh, yes.
in this
Yes,
industry. And
they matter.
sometimes, and there's a message in what Melissa just said, because there's people out there, even people that I know who have recently been laid off from positions in
Mhm.
this industry. So keep that good attitude, keep that
Yeah.
spirit of faith and that spirit of expectancy that something
Humility.
better is coming, and leave in a good way. See, me, I'm ready to throw everything off the desk, toss some water in your face. You know, those are not the things to be doing.
Right. Right. No, humility.
Because
Humility.
that job might call you back, and that is one of the things. I think those are some of the reasons why this insane chaotic industry, but then we love it so much, because these are the stories that you hear about and things that happen. So we were a leasing professional. Where did we go from there? How did we get to the point where we shifted the brand?
Mm. You know what, Ty? I'm glad you asked the question about shifting the brand, because I always talk about that now. I didn't know that I was building a brand back then. I knew I had career goals. I knew the traditional path in the industry was it didn't really resonate, but I felt like it was what I was supposed to do, like go from leasing to assistant community manager to regional and all of that. I was like, okay, like I could do this. I like it. And I love but I had such a love, and I still do, such a love and a heart and a passion for on-site teams and for being on site. Like I was the person in the office, like, please don't make me sit at this desk all day. I told you early on,
Mhm.
I knew what I didn't want. I didn't want to be stuck at a desk. And I needed to be around people. I thrive with learning, hearing their stories. Like every tour felt like an interview to me, right? I think I was interviewing people back then.
Mhm.
Um, but for me, I was like, okay, I got some goals. I had some life goals at the time, financially. I wanted to, buy a house and just do some other things. Okay, so that requires me to move my career along. So, and I was naturally curious. And I was that leasing person that was exceptional at sales and closing, but don't make me do no paperwork.
Yeah.
Like, don't make me do no financials. But I had to learn because I had a mentor at the time who said, hey, if you can be aware and honest about what you're not good at and work on that and make that your goal, then that will get you in doors and opportunities that your natural skills won't. And I was like, okay. So at the time, I really got serious about learning financials. Like that didn't come naturally for me. Even after business school, like I struggled with that in college. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, I'll never use it. That's a lie, because I used it all the time in property management. I needed it. So business school prepared me, but it was the application of what I learned sitting in that APM seat. And the again, I'm gonna keep saying the word humble. I had to humble myself and deal with real people issues, why they were late, and hear their stories. I had to be compassionate and understanding, but I also had to understand the ins and outs of running a multi-million-dollar asset. And I think that's when the responsibility clicked in. It was like, oh, this is not a small thing. You're trusted with like you're trusted with the stewardship
Yeah.
of people and their homes. And I think it was in that role that was the bridge between leasing and corporate and beyond. When you talk
Yeah.
about shifting the brand,
Hmm.
shifting the brand meant I need to see my gaps and my weaknesses and address it before I could go any further. And that was me sitting in that role as an assistant manager.
But see, I love that you realize that you were a brand. I think that's the first thing is that we have to realize. So, to anybody out there that, Ty, I'm just the leasing
Mhm.
professional,
Yeah,
I'm just the property manager. You are your brand, not the management company you work for, not the property that you work for, not whether it's luxury or tax credit.
yeah,
It's Ty Jackson that's the brand, it's Melissa D. White that's the brand.
yeah.
And I think realizing that early on, so you realize that, okay, now anything that I do is on the brand.
Well, let's be clear though. I did not know it at the time.
Okay.
The moment I knew that I was a brand or was building a brand happened, and that's a whole nother story. But it happened at the moment. I've tried to leave the industry like 3 times. And I will tell you why I keep coming back and why it's ingrained in my heart and in my DNA. That's how it's like a relationship where you like,
Mhm.
I wanna, and you're like, I can't leave, I love you. And so
Right.
at that particular time, I was in graduate school. I was working on my MBA and I was doing some other things I was passionate about. And I had about this. Remember, I'm telling you the story of leaders along the way, right? I
Mhm.
had a boss I worked for, a regional, as a matter of fact, who went on to be a regional vice president for another company. Passed over for community manager 5 times. Five. And I was so frustrated. I was like, I can't get a promotion here. I can't move forward here. I didn't understand. Like, and they were just saying, hey, it's not the right asset for you. It's not the right time. But I was like, but I got this plan and I gotta, you messing up my plan. I can't get promoted. So I was like, I'm gonna do this and leave. And so um that mentor, another mentor and leader at the time, when I sent him the request for a letter of recommendation, I was about to go work for HUD. He said to me, he's like, wait, did I read this right? He said, no, 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 no. He said, let's sit and have lunch. If I have to create a position for you to keep you on the trajectory that you deserve to go on, then we'll figure it out. And that's exactly what he did. And Ty, you know me, I've written about, I'm an advocate for it, of the 4 relationships. You need someone that's going to sponsor you, who's going to advocate for you, and he advocated, created a role. He's like, just get in here and then we can figure out the rest. And that's what he did. And that's when I realized, for somebody to go on a limb for you like that, that's it's
Mhm.
less about the job and more about the person you are. Like,
Definitely.
do a good job. But and I said, well, dog, what is he, if he thinks that much of me to create a role? And it
Mhm.
was when I got in that position and I realized I'm in a position now to advocate for people who were like me, who were overlooked, and who really had the skills and the qualifications, but weren't in the right situation yet, or who didn't have the right resources. And so I was like, oh, shoot, I'm only a brand. Catch this. I'm only a brand and a responsible brand when I'm in a position to solve problems for other people.
Boom. Just like that. And I say that because one of the things that you just said that, I mean, gut punched me is when you said I was looked over 5 times for that position.
Mhm.
I've been looked over for plenty of positions, and I know that there are women, and especially women in my community, and
Yeah.
people that's in the same situation right now, or
Hmm.
that have been in the same situation before.
Yeah.
So, speak to those people. For the people who are out there that have been looked over for positions, that have been, because this industry can be tough sometimes. It really can be. How do you not get discouraged and
Yeah.
you stay motivated and continue to still find out what your purpose is and not leave the industry, because I feel like sometimes we lose so many great people because of that number one thing. So how do we combat against it when it happens?
I'm glad you asked that question. I'm glad that you've created space to talk to people who are unseen and unheard, as I say, the marginalized ones. It's very easy to tell people work hard, show up and do your best, um, speak up and all. It's easy to tell people that. And again, I'm on Talking with Ty, so can I be all the way real?
Well, when you do that, we see now. When I get disclaimer, y'all, when I'm on the phone with Melissa, usually I have to bring out a little napkin because, and it's because all the things we talk about in this industry. When you've been in the industry for 20 years, like us, as Black women in a industry where we are a minority, you have wavered and weathered so many situations. So the things that we talk about, we're podcasting about them, but these are real life situations.
Real life stuff. And it's still happening. So here's how I answer your question. Here's how I will talk to and address the overlooked, the unseen and unheard. And here's what I'll say to you. I'm going to tell you a story, and I'm sure many of you may relate to it. And right now I'm talking to people who, the majority, or those who may have had a different education, a different awareness or indoctrination into business, into leadership. People don't know what they don't know. And depending on your background, education, or lack thereof, you can still do your best you can only do your best at the level of knowledge that you've been given. And you may not know the nuances or the ins and outs. Like, give you an example. I realized like no one had ever taught me to do a resume explaining or quantifying my success in numbers. I was always taught from the scope of, even in college, like even at the Career Center, do a chronological resume and you tell people what you do well. The only way I ever knew to go back at the time when I was an assistant community manager to revamp my resume and rewrite it from the perspective of what quantitative results have I achieved on behalf. Put a number on your results. Know your numbers. No one had taught me that. I was taught how to be a good employee, put my head down and follow orders. I was not taught how to equate my value to what I helped a company earn, to my closing ratio. I was not taught initially how to say, hey, here is the retention rate increased by this number, or my lease up numbers were this, or I leased up a 200 unit property in less than 90 days with these strategies. The only reason I knew it is because I went into the office and the manager at the time was interviewing for a job somewhere else and left her resume on the copier. And when I picked it up and looked at it, I said, what is this? Looks different. And I studied that. I stared at that thing so hard. I was like, what do these numbers mean? And I did. And I'm being honest, y'all. I'm not going to lie on this platform. I made a copy of that resume and I was like, what did she just do? Because here's the thing. She went on to get a position that I interviewed with a different company at the time. And I was like, what? And it's very easy because we're not of the same color and persuasion. She was a Caucasian female. And we oftentimes, it's very easy to say, well, they got it because of this or because of their color or because of whatever. No, she understood how to use her voice in writing to articulate and quantify value. I had never been taught.
Yeah.
That changed my life. That coupled with the fact that my mama sat me down, she said, I know you have this meeting for another job. And I had never heard of a salaries.com. I didn't know about negotiating. I figured, hey, what you tell me I earn, if that's what you pay and what the market say, okay. I didn't understand that. It took my mama, who was in the era of affirmative action. I'm a generational entrepreneur. So she had navigated corporate as the only Black woman in tech and in computer science and in starting a business. So she said, hey, this is how you negotiate. She sat me down and said, go research what your education is worth. Go research where you live and the cost of living and how much you need to make. And I didn't know. And at the time, I was, fast forward, 26, 27 years old. Mm-hmm. So again, it's easy to tell people just work hard when they don't even know how to explain the value of their hard work.
That was, I hope y'all got y'all pen, y'all paper, y'all scribble board or something, getting notes, because showing your value through a resume, you learned it then. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until now. I'm 42. I know I don't look like it, y'all. I know y'all think I'm in my 20s.
You look amazing.
No. But a whole 42 out here, and my friend Michael Fazio, somebody creative, used to be a part of NAA, was my resource director, and he did a resume for me. And when he sent it to me, and he, kudos, if Fazio, if you're listening, you know how I feel about you, and anybody that knows him that's an AE or an association that works with him, I'm sure you guys feel the same way. The resume that he did for me, like you said, I was taught chronological order, put the jobs that I worked, I got service skills, this, that. The resume that he did, when I read it, I was like, this me? This me? Yeah. I would hire me too. Right. Off of this resume. Like, it was a resume that was showing the value that I've done for companies. It showed that I made rookie of the year when I was a department finder my second year. It showed how I had leased up communities, not just I'm the property manager, I did this, prepared budgets, did this. And a lot of the times that's what we do. And I think one of the other things that you said, we're not far removed from parents that were slaves or grandparents that were slaves. If our parents wasn't, then most of their parents and their grandparents were.
Right.
So we were taught, be quiet, put your head
down. Head down, work, don't upset nobody. That's a trauma response. So we are now of a generation where we are the benefactors. Here we are on the heels of Juneteenth. I'm the benefactor of a generation that had to learn how to be free thinkers, free workers, free laborers, free in the sense that they could make their own way. And so again, when you talk about being a brand, I can only get to be a brand on the back of the identity of someone that had to tear down a barrier for me. I can only be a brand or be a name or have a reputation based on the excellence and the standard put before me. But most importantly, to know my worth and to speak it and articulate it well and hold the standard, because too many people work hard for us to hold a standard.
Yeah.
And if we don't know it, then we're doing ourselves a disservice. This is why platforms like this, conversations like this, if you don't have a mentor, you better watch every episode this season and glean from these conversations, whatever it takes, and then start saying, be honest, say, I don't know, please teach me. You will get, that is my number one life lesson. I think the number one mistake I think I've ever made in life and in business has been not speaking up enough. And that's why, Ty, I'm so passionate. When this, my company mission is my life mission. It's not just a statement on a business. Activating the voices of the unseen and unheard. Why? Because I am the unseen and unheard.
Definitely.
And I had to find a way to have a voice, but not be too loud, not offend nobody. I don't want to upset you, but I still got to get this out. And so it's important. And if you're gonna get that on Talking with Ty and from the people who had to navigate, and everybody that you talk to this season is gonna have a different way that
Yeah.
they navigated their voice, and your voice is going to change. And sometimes your voice is going to shake, and sometimes your voice has to sound different depending on the room you're in, but the message doesn't change.
Exactly. Different depending on the room that you're in.
Mhm.
One of the things that I like that you said is a safe space when you don't know. One of the things, shout out to our Melanin and Multifamily group
Yeah.
created by Monica Frazier, is creating the space, an affinity group that created a space for a collective
Mhm.
to be able to ask those questions, to be able to say, hey, Ashia, I know this is a crazy question, but how does this work or how does that work?
Right.
Especially with navigating through NAA. If you haven't went through Leadership Lyceum or
You
you
don't know.
haven't had the benefit of hanging around Don Bruner or Alex Jackie to have those intimate conversations about how
Mhm.
you navigate that space, you don't know. And sometimes because we don't know, we can feel inadequate and we sit back and it's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to ask that question in front of them. I don't want to raise my
Right.
hand at NAA and
Mhm.
ask, how do I get on the track to become the chairman of the board? When maybe I should know. I've been in this industry for 20 years though, Melissa. I should know this already.
Yeah.
So with saying that, you keep referring back to mentorship. Let's pause right there and talk about that for a minute.
Sure.
How important would you say mentor, coaching, allyship,
Ooh,
sponsorship? How important is this, and how did it change you and your career?
it's critical. It is it's paramount because it's up there with education. And knowledge is much more than intellectual property, what you learn and create up here. It is relational responsibility. Like, now I have to have human knowledge. I have to have knowledge of the right people, knowledge of how to build and nurture relationships, knowledge of reciprocity and what it looks like. Because so many, and that we, I mean, people may call it another term, emotional intelligence, things like that. How to build relationships with people,
Yeah.
because it, boy, would it be a lonely place to step your way over people to get to the top, and yet you've lost your integrity in the process.
Hmm.
And so, if it had not been for allies, advocates, who for most of my career I will say were people who did not look like me, did
Hmm.
not come from where I came from, did not talk how I talk, and their hair didn't look like mine.
Yeah.
They saw me and said, I see you. And not that I needed the validation, but what I did need was um I guess a permission, if you will, to say, don't you change a thing. It was not, and I say this with love. Ty, now you know, every time I say something like, okay, somebody's gonna probably police what I'm about to say, but I say it anyway. Because people need the truth. It at the time, we are in a fortunate time. There was no melanin and multifamily. There was not at the time, early. I'm talking about the first 10 years of my career.
Yeah.
There was not a fellow black or brown person coming to take my hand
Hmm.
and say, do this. Not because they weren't present, but for different reasons.
Yeah.
It was others who said, I see you, I accept you. I'm not going to appropriate or tokenize you. I just need you to show up with what you have, not because of your identity for diversity, but because you are the best and you are gifted. And my God, I know you are going to really, really be exceptional and go places because I see your talent.
Mhm.
So it was the people who supported my talent, who cultivated my talent. So we have to be so careful not to applaud the difference and not cultivate the talent.
Yes. I love the word permission.
Yeah.
I wrote that word down because I think for a long time in my multifamily career,
Mhm.
that's what I was lacking. And when I
Mm.
got it, I was working for Apartment Finder, Michelle Childers. If you out there, Michelle, you know how I feel about you, sis.
Yes, she is
She
truly a saint,
was the
a true ally.
VP at that time.
Mhm.
My hair, everybody know, twist out, funky, big.
All of that.
My look, microaggression would be said is to be exotic. I've been
Yeah.
told that before.
Yeah.
She was the first person that gave me the permission to be me and said the same thing. I see you. And if I let you be exactly who you are, then I know what you can do for me.
Mm-hmm.
And she did that. And
Mm-hmm.
I ran like a fool in Memphis and
Mm-hmm.
exceeded all kind of sales goals and won awards.
Mm-hmm.
And it gave me the confidence to be on Talking with Ty today with Melissa. It gave me the confidence to reach out to Melissa and want her to be my coach, or to walk with the ladies in Melanin and Multifamily and stand on the stage with people like Dana and Shatoria and Ashia. If I wouldn't have been given the permission, I would still be walking around trying to hide who I am, having this what we call it, the imposter syndrome,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is exhausting,
Mm-hmm.
being somebody who I'm not. So it took the permission of somebody else for me to get there. So knowing when to shift, we talked about when you shift from your personal brand and you shift to your business,
Yeah.
using your voice for influence, though, because I've heard you use your voice. The Melissa you guys see at Apartmentalize, Advocate, on the Activation Hour, on Talking with
Woo,
Honey. No, 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 no.
girl.
This is not, y'all are only getting a touch of her.
Mm.
To be in a room with you in the Bahamas, talking to children that are in an orphanage, guys. And
Yeah.
I don't want you to think we're talking about 5 or 6 year olds where, oh, okay, well, they little bitty kids. No, 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 no. We're talking about 15, 16, 12, 13, boys, girls. We talking about Christ. We talking about listening to somebody. We talking about saving souls. To see you in that element, to influence people to give their life to Christ, though, not influencing people to change jobs or be an entrepreneur, to influence people to give their life to Christ.
Yeah.
The faith-led leader. How did that happen? How did we put, because they beaten religion out of business. So how did we put them two together and walk people into their purpose?
Oh, wow, Ty, we going there today? Let's go there.
Let's go deep.
I have been taught my entire life, many of us have, that there are two things that have no place in your work relationships at your job, which are what? Religion and politics. And I have been on a personal journey. Many may or may not know of this about me. I'm so fortunate and blessed that God sees me fit to answer the call as a licensed minister and walk that out. But before ministry, before humanitarianism, all that other stuff, before any of that, it was service first. And while in my career in 2016, at the top of my career, as a matter of fact, because of the social justice issues And because of the civil unrest and because of my heart for youth and young people, my job was not enough to sustain and keep me when society was hurting me, when my community was hurting. All the success in the world could not placate me to just go home and be okay. And it's like this righteous agitation. I didn't realize at the time what God was doing was, while I started at the time, and you know, friends and family across the multifamily industry were following me personally, like on social media, and they saw I started protesting. I'd become very involved with the NAACP, and I was doing a lot of community-based work. And out of that work, really starting the nonprofit, starting Righting Our Wrongs and working with youth, came from a pure place of, I love my profession, but my profession is not my purpose. And I have permission to be both and to live both. And so it's there's this confusion about, well, I see you doing this and I see you doing that, and we're multifaceted. I think to be a polymath means you are multidimensional and dynamic. It's not always exceptional in corporate. It's not always exceptional, and it's not always accepted. And I remember at one my last owner manager corporate position. At the time, I had a great need to be home. I was traveling every week, 42 out of 52 weeks in a year, Monday through Friday, only home on weekends. And I was exhausted, and I was in ministry training. I started my nonprofit after youth in the school program, but I loved my job too. And all I asked was like, I need to dial back the travel just a little bit. And I remember having a VP advocate for me. And they said, listen, she's not here at our company to preach, or that she's not trying to do any of that stuff. But wouldn't we want, she advocated for me. She said, wouldn't we want someone who cares this much on our side and on our team? In a room of people that said, well, no, the job is the job, and just do the job. In a room full of leaders that were saying, let her go because she can't travel as much. She said, wait a minute, let's reevaluate this. So when you talk about ministry, for me, I've been licensed for 5 years. It'll be 5 years in August this year. I struggled the last 5 years with living my faith out loud. Not that I'm toting Bibles into office buildings, but it is my identity. So when you tell people don't talk about your faith or religion, that's like telling someone don't be Black.
There you go.
Don't be white. Don't be, I mean, if I really want to get into the details of it, Article 7 Civil Rights Act, it talks about the freedom of religion. No, you don't have to make accommodations for someone to pray out loud in your workplace. But if you look at leaders that have a belief system, a personal spiritual structure that helps ground them as a leader, where they care and have concern for your people, how much more effective are they when you recognize their faith really does govern a lot of the decisions that are made? It is a culmination of faith, facts, and human emotion. We don't get to check any of that at the door. So we have been lying to ourselves. Well, hey, check, which for years, and especially for our generation, was taught, check that at the door. You don't bring that to work. You don't talk about that. You don't deal with that. But yet it is a part of our decision-making archetype. Yeah. We pray about stuff if that's your faith. And I'm talking about whatever you believe. You might meditate, you might pray, you might do whatever it takes to say, hey, in my humanness, I can't get an answer through.
Well, and you would think in this industry, we would want to meditate and pray a little bit more, as in any industry, but in our industry, nobody wakes up and say, I'm moving today. The sun is shining. It is a great day to move. There's a life-changing event that happens in somebody's life that causes them to move. And because of that, you got to be in some type of place within you that you have meditated or spiritually that you can deal with people. So we are freezing up, guys, and we're coming to the top of the hour. But before I let you off of here, there's so much you and I could talk about.
Yeah.
I want them to know, how can they talk to you. I talk to Melissa
Mm.
monthly by myself on a one-on-one. I also talk to her on a Thursday night call with the Activation Nation.
Mhm.
How can anyone out there that is ready, and I mean seriously, guys, you're seriously ready
Yeah.
to go to the next level? You're at a fork in the road, you're at a crossroad, and you don't know what else to do. You've taken your career, you've taken your business as far as you can take it on your own, and you're ready to go to the next level, and you need some guidance. You need to be coached. You need somebody to hold you accountable.
Yeah.
How can they get in touch or contact you, Melissa, to do those things?
Thank you for that, Ty. And man, I so hate that it's freezing up, but I thank you for those of you who are sticking through it. And I love all of the comments and the love and the that I see here on LinkedIn and other platforms. You can absolutely go to my website. I'll make it easy for you, melissadwhite.com. Everything's connected there, whether it's faith based, kingdom based, or corporate or community. I've been very fortunate and blessed to have the same mission and in multiple areas. So you get to pick your path with me. Okay, it's made very easy. You pick your path, whether that's through coaching, in the executive space. As a leader, you've heard most of my story, so you understand more of the backstory now. Like Ty has done on that commitment of a year journey. If you are wanting to be seen and heard more at work and have the tools to not self marginalize, the tools to communicate, I have a full program that I've written to help you with communication skills. Now that you have a seat at the table, to not exclude yourself once you're in the room. And then also there's our 1 year mastermind. I definitely am working with, my goal is to work with 10 executive women at a high level who say, hey, I'm ready to use my voice for real. I'm ready to build my platform like Ty has done. But you can go to melissadwhite.com. And yes, thank you for mentioning the Spirit Led Leader book and devotional. It's 21 prayers for leaders and entrepreneurs in the workplace and business. That book will release next month, so you'll see more about that. And I'll do more talks about it because there are people who are hiding their faith in silence. I'm very, very honored to do it. And that's essentially my way of shifting my brand that uh and those my and I'm so thankful for my corporate clients who know, like, when people want to work with you, they'll work with you. Like, it doesn't matter. And no, that doesn't mean you that I go again preaching. However, when you carry the light, you go be light. And it does, you don't have to go, in any type of way. You just go and be present for people. So yeah, melissadwhite.com to learn about the books, courses. Have a course on public speaking that's also out. I've been speaking since the age of 15 professionally. And so there's a lot of tools that I want to give to activate your voice to be seen and heard at work and in the world.
Well, I am a testament to your coaching, the things that you say, y'all. I mean, if you know me, you know I don't advocate for everybody. Even the people that I bring on Talking with Ty is invite only. It's people that I really want to know your story, and I want other people to hear your story. I am signing off on this lady. She is the real deal. She is the truth. Have a virtual coffee with her, hit her up on LinkedIn, and find a way to stay connected to Melissa D. White. We are at the top of the hour, guys. Please continue to follow Talking with Ty. This is a unscripted live podcast that is happening every Tuesday. Next Tuesday, we have my best friend out of Mississippi with Liberty Rent, James Burwell. James will be on, and we will be having the conversation also. If you are out there and you're wanting to get on my platform and share your conversation, hit me up on LinkedIn at Ty Jackson. Hit me up on Facebook at Ty Jackson. Or you can hit me up on my fashion channel on Instagram, which is your girl, Fly Ty 4.0. So, Melissa, is there anything else that you would like to say in our last 2 minutes before we jump off?
I want to leave you and your audience with a challenge. The coach in me can never just leave without a coachable moment or a challenge.
Give it.
If you have heard this today and you have seen and celebrated Ty, and I just want to applaud how you have shown up and you always look for how to do things better. So, my charge and challenge to your audience is to number one, is there anywhere that I am playing small and allowing myself to be unseen and unheard? Number two, when did I start doing that? And number three, do I love myself enough to show up for the people who are called and assigned to me? Because it may not be ministry for you, it may not necessarily be multifamily for you, but there are people who are assigned to your voice somewhere. So make today the day you decide to no longer mute yourself. How will you commit to be seen and heard at work and in the world? So that's my
I love it. So the only thing that I'm going to leave you guys with, and it's one of the things I wrote down as you were talking, and I just want to reiterate this, guys. My profession is not my purpose. I challenge you guys to continue to walk in your purpose. If you don't know what your purpose is, that's okay. Figure it out, walk in it, be great. If there's anything that I can do to assist you on that journey, please do not hesitate to contact me. Thank you guys so much for tuning in with Talking with Ty, Season 2, Episode 1. And we will see you guys next Tuesday. Have an amazing rest of the day.